We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to AVRant. I'm Tom Andry, and I'm here with
Rob H.
Anand. That's what I'm going with, Anand. I think I got it right that time. Anand recently upgraded his entire home theater setup so he can enjoy 4K HDR, and Atmos. His room is 20 by 12 by 9. But he's sticking with a 5.1.2 setup for the time being because this is a rented apartment. And he can't mount any speakers on the walls.
Okay.
How is he getting them above him? Anyways, doesn't make any difference. Oh, that's right. Okay. So he was already using Klipsch reference series speakers, and Rob said the Klipsch Atmos-enabled module is the best of the upward firing speakers out there. So he bought a pair of those and positioned them on the top of his front, left, right Klipsch towers.
Just to clarify, best that I've heard. I haven't heard them all.
No, right, okay. He's read the manual and followed the Denon setup wizard and wound up with his X3300W configured for the 5.1.2 with top fronts. He's tried a few different Atmos soundtracks, but he wasn't experiencing much of the way of overhead effects. Any suggestions to improve his experience, and notice a difference compared to a 5.1 True HD and DTS HDMA experience. Okay, this is not set up correctly, right? The top fronts.
You are correct, Tom.
Top fronts are actual speakers, and you have to isn't there an Atmos module set up somehow?
Yeah, the label is Front Dolby.
That's a stupid name.
I know, but that is the label.
Of course it is.
And that is actually a very important setting.
Yeah, because if not, then it thinks there's speakers up there. You know?
Yeah. Mainly when you've got an Atmos receiver and you are using upward firing speakers of any type, what the front Dolby, surround Dolby, rear Dolby settings and the labels for those speakers, it actually applies it's patented even by Dolby. It applies a very specific filter to those speakers. It's
like a target curve, right?
Basically. It's based on Dolby's research into head-related transfer functions, which are all the parts that, the external parts of your ear that alter the sound and actually allow us to detect when a sound is coming from overhead as opposed to in front of us or from behind us. It's all the little reflections that come off the pinna, the outer part of your ear, off your own skull, off your shoulders, all that stuff. They've researched that, come up with this very specific curve, and that gets applied to those speakers to trick your brain into thinking that the sound came from overhead. So it's a very important setting to have. So yeah, after you go back, so manually, you could either go through the setup wizard again, which would be fine, and this time, this is the trick with Denon and Marantz. If you're using the wizard, you have to, when it asks you how many overhead speakers or what overhead speakers do you have, because it asks you that first in the wizard, you have to say, I don't have any.
Because you don't.
And then it'll say, how many Dolby-enabled speakers do you have? What Dolby-enabled speakers do you have? And then you can say, I have front Dolby speakers. If you're not using the wizard and you're just doing it manually, you can just go into the amplifier assign. It's not even in the speaker setup. It's in the amplifier assign. And you have to say, I have 5.1.2 with front Dolby speakers in the amplifier assign. And after you do that, you need to run Odyssey again. Okay. Because now Odyssey... It's very important to run Odyssey again because now Odyssey is going to go, oh, I know these are Dolby speakers, so I'm not going to try and make them flat. I'm going to try and make them match the Dolby head-related transfer function curve. So all of it very important. Change them to front Dolby and run Odyssey again.
All right. After applying Rob's advice and to set the modules as front Dolby, things sounded better.
Yay.
However, he also reran Odyssey, and it seems as though everything is louder now. Previously, he found minus 15 dB on the volume dial to be just right for his taste, but now with the new settings, he has to turn it down to minus 19 dB. Why would this change from top front Dolby make any difference for the 5 ear level speakers? 4 dB seems like quite a bit to be just variation from one Odyssey setup to another. Could it just be difference in perception? Oh, it's definitely not difference in perception because it's objectively louder or it's objective. Well, this is what I think happened. You now added new speakers. Okay. So you got these upward firing speakers that are doing, that they have to be level matched with everything else. Mm-hmm. So the level matching happened, and when it did, I think the level, because of these new speakers, it adjusted the overall volume
That could be.
in there. That's the first thing that came to my mind. And this is one of those things I'd be like, I don't care. You know what I mean? It's like, I'd be like, oh, that's interesting. This would be like a blip on a speed bump on the way for me to go back to not caring about what the dial was. I'd be like, oh yeah, got to remember, I like it minus 19 now. I don't know that would make that much difference. Now, is there another reason that this could happen, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, this is a bit confusing to me. I mean, normally my suspect would be the microphone placement was different the second time around, which can make a significant difference, especially
difference,
if, closer to the back of your seat one time and not as close to the back of your seat the next time. That can make quite a large difference.
Right.
So that would be my prime suspect. Yeah. I mean, I'm fairly the trim levels probably are different on your speakers each time. I'm not sure if you wrote them down from the first time and compared to the second, but they probably are different in the trim levels. I mean, to me, this isn't particularly something to worry about because it's not. I mean, if there was some massive, 30 decibels difference, you go, what in the heck happened, right? 4 decibels. I mean, you're right. It seems like a little bit more than you expect just as a variation from
I think
setup
it's
to the next. But
I think it's just microphone more than anything. I mean,
that's my top suspect. Yeah.
What I said before, that's certainly possible. That's something in there changed because of that, but I think overall it's just microphone. And people don't believe me, but you can. Back when we used to do this with handheld devices, I used to hold it in my hand and hold it out as far to the side as. Which side should I go to? This side? Hold it as far out to the side as I could and do it, and I would get my measurements. And then one day I put it on a tripod and realized that just taking my hand off of it made a huge difference in the measurement, a massive difference. So sometimes, especially when we're talking about boundary reinforcement, if you're within 12 inches of the back of any part of your seat, or when you're in the room, or your door's open, or you know what I mean? I mean, or the fan was on or something, you know what I mean? It could be a huge difference. So I would just run Odyssey 2 or 3 times and then see if it ends up being consistent. In which case, assume that your old measurement was wrong and this one was right.
I also kind of wonder because if you do the Odyssey setup by default, it turns dynamic EQ on.
Yeah, it could be too.
And if you had it turned off previously, and now it's back on because default put it back on when you reran Odyssey, that can make a big difference because everything will sound, when you turn it down, things still sound louder because dynamic EQ keeps everything audible. So you turn it down even more to get down to perceptually what it was before. So it could be dynamic EQ.
Should be on. So just don't turn it off. So there's that too. Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.